Bonnie, I was in his office for like 15 minutes, and all of everything I'm going to tell you happened in 15 minutes. He checked me on the table, which I was bleeding then. He said to me, "You might have carcinoma. This might be cancer. It might not be cancer. How old are you?" 58. "Oh, you don't need it anyway. We'll just take everything out."
Today, I'm talking with Margie Wilson, who was diagnosed in 2016 with endometrial cancer, about the road that she's traveled. She went from not even knowing what an oncologist is to being an outspoken patient advocate for Black women with cancer. Margie, welcome to our podcast, From Bench to Bedside and Beyond.
Thank you, Bonnie. Happy to be here.
To have you. So I'm hoping that you can just start by telling our listeners how you first got diagnosed, and what that was like for you in back in 2016.
I was first diagnosed and started having symptoms that were bothering me probably 7 or 8 months before I was actually diagnosed. And it was just bleeding, unexplainable. And for a while, I thought it was menopause. And I finally mentioned it to my doctor. She said, no, no, and sent me through a biopsy. Well, I didn't get the biopsy at that moment, but I did do an ultrasound where the lady thought my lining was a little thick. I remember her saying that your lining's a little thick. And once again, I still didn't know what that meant. And then I went and saw another, after I moved, I was in transition. I moved from one city in Seattle to another. And when I got a new doctor, went to another, because this bleeding was still off and on, but getting heavier. And I went to another OBGYN, and that's when she took the biopsy in the hospital, which was horrific. No painkillers, nothing. They just started grabbing stuff up there. It was bad. I did the biopsy, and then she connected me with an oncologist, OBGYN specialist. And in that point was when the words were all thrown at me. You have this, you might have that, you might have this. And I'm just sitting like deer in headlights. Yeah. And then from there, I went and got a couple other opinions before I actually started treatment. But it was the unexplainable bleeding that led me there. I didn't have any real cramps or pain or anything, but I just felt like I shouldn't be bleeding still. I mean, isn't menopause over? I always say my cancer hit in menopause because I felt like every symptom I had mimicked menopause. So be aware, ladies. So when
Yeah, which
menopause
makes
start,
it
watch that. Yeah.
yeah, that makes it much, much more complicated. Thank you,
Yeah.
for pointing that out. So I remember you said that the doctor, the oncologist that you saw initially, not at Fred Hutch, but had said he asked how old you were, and you said, I think you said 58, and
Yes.
he said, "Oh, you don't need that anyway," referring to your uterus. "We'll just take that out," right? And that did not go over well with you.
It didn't. Well, for
Why is that?
one, Bonnie, I was in his office for like 15 minutes, and all of everything I'm going to tell you happened in 15 minutes. He checked me on the table, which I was bleeding then. He said to me, "You might have carcinoma. This might be cancer. It might not be cancer. How old are you?" 58. "Oh, you don't need it anyway. We'll just take everything out. Now, if we see any signs of cancer, we'll try to save some stuff, but after all, you don't." All of this was said. And then at the very end, I was in the office next door making an appointment to have a surgery to have a hysterectomy. And a friend of mine was with me, and she also was asking him to slow down. He talked really fast, and to explain to me what he was telling me. Like he was throwing these words at me that I had no idea were, because when I first heard the word, going to an oncologist, OBGYN, I just thought, and bring somebody with you from the OBGYN doctor who did the biopsy. I just said, "Oh, okay." And I just casually mentioned it to my daughter. And she was like, "Well, Mom, they think you have cancer." And I said, "Well, how do you know?" She goes, "Well, you're going to see an oncologist." I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. Mind you, I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm a fitness instructor. I eat fairly well. I take care of myself. There's no reason cancer can touch my body." So, yeah, that was not a happy experience for a person who, especially who doesn't know the medical field. I go to the doctor once a year for my PAP. That was it. I dealt with fibroids in my early 40s. I mean, and that got healed with a natural remedy from a friend. They were gone. And so
Yeah.
here I am listening to this man just talking. I'm like, really?
So
You know,
that's what prompted you to get a second opinion. Is
absolutely.
that right?
And
You just felt
and
like
my
you were
girl.
not being listened to. Okay.
So
So
my
then
my
what
friend.
happened?
Then my friend who was with me too said, you can get another opinion too. And immediately I have two adult daughters. They were in their um, late 30s then, and they were both like, get another opinion, and so after my surgery, and I want to say that the surgeon, the doctor that I did see, the fast talking, not listening doctor, was a very great surgeon, because everyone throughout my process said he did an amazing job, and so yay for that.
Big yeah.
That was something positive about that doctor. And so then I went and he told me I saw him after the 10 days, the post, and then I never saw him again. He said, "We don't take your insurance here. You'll have to go to the Cancer Care Alliance then," which is now Fred Hutch. And that's where I met my radiation doctor who gave me his opinion. And then my youngest doctor knew a doctor who knew the doctor, Dr. Kimmy Dole, that actually does research on uterine cancers and endometrial cancer research. And so she plugged me into Kimmy, and I saw Kimmy 2 weeks, no, about a month after my surgery. Maybe
Right,
3 or 4, yeah, about a month after my surgery. And then she ended up being my chemo doctor too, which I didn't know at the time when I
right.
saw her, but my time with her was amazing.
Okay. And so you were saying that you now you had this woman, this female doctor looking you in the eye, talking to you, stopping, making sure you understand. Do you want to write this down? Do you have any questions? And so that must have felt really different for you.
Oh, it was so different. Finally, I felt like I was in my space. And, she was a Black woman. That made a big difference too. I was just like, because when my daughter sent me the picture of her, and she goes, "Here's her bio. Her office is going to call you." And they did within the
Yeah.
next week. And I got in to see her. Yeah, she was like telling me all my options with the chemo. And she
Right.
broke down like the percentages because she kept saying 3 to 4 rounds of chemo. And the first doctor told me 6 to 8 rounds of chemo. The next doctor told me 4 to 7 rounds of chemo. And then she goes, "No, we only need 4 max," and all of that. So that was really cool. And I kept asking her why. And then she literally broke down the percentages,
Yeah.
letting me know that uterine cancers hide. And a lot of time when they come back, it's dark. You don't know it. But by the time they find out, you could be well into stage 4. I was a stage 1B and grade 3, and you won't know it. So that's why it was like preventative. And you're talking to someone who doesn't really like to take a Tylenol. So now you're talking about so I was very anxious. But we had a great conversation and I felt heard. Actually, we were sitting at a little round table, not in her office, in another space in the building. And it was just so comfortable. After that, I felt like I could breathe. Like it was like, okay, you're going to be
And
fine. You're going to be fine.
so you had radiation oncologist Dr. Coe, who's no longer at Fred Hutch, but then he transitioned your care to Dr. Dahl, or they were working in tandem?
They were working in tandem, because when I got to Dr. Dole, she said, "I've already talked to Dr. Coe." That was another comforting thing. "We're not
Right,
gonna do pelvic radiation, we're gonna do brachytherapy." And
right,
then describe that to me, all what that entails. And
right.
I'm like, "Okay,
Okay.
you're gonna do." Yeah.
Okay, so that is, before we started recording, I said, "Are you comfortable talking about brachytherapy?" And you said, "I better be because I talk about it all the time and
I
I've been doing
know,
it for years."
I do. For
So
one,
can
it's like what bracket wait, what is it? Bracket, and believe me, I had to break it down before I could learn how to say it.
Okay,
So
well,
just
so
like
I'm sure a
endometrial.
lot of people I bet
Yes,
a lot of people don't know what it is. So what
yes.
is it and how did it factor into your treatment plan?
Okay. So brachytherapy is where they do internal, and the other name for it is internal radiation, where they take this little tube and they put it right up inside your vagina. 9 years ago, when I was going through this, the machine was in this big open room. Your feet are up in a stirrup. And my day when I was there, the intern's assistant, the doctor, there's 5 people all going. I was just like, "Really?" But I did take a sedative because just the whole idea of it was daunting to me. So I wasn't completely coherent, but coherent enough to know. The room is full and everybody's looking up your hoo-ha going, "Oh my gosh, surgery was great. Oh, it looks great up in there. Oh, I just wanted you guys to," the doctor, Dr. Ko, he was great too. My a consultation with Dr. Ko, he was the most kindest, soft-spoken man and very, very intentional. I was probably in his office at least 40 minutes. So, yeah, and I was just like, and then the first treatment was 10 minutes, then the other 2 treatments were less, like maybe 6 minutes, then 4 minutes for the last one, but we
Okay.
were 4 minutes. But yeah, and I really didn't have any major side effects from the brachytherapy because before he started, he showed me the dilators, which helps elasticity, like if you're not sexually active, which I wasn't, it helps the elasticity come back into the vagina after. And he explained all that to me before my first one. And I appreciated that and gave me all the tools. But I did take a bath because I didn't read the paper. So I took a bath. And when I came back the second time, I mentioned it to the nurse and she's like, "No, yeah." And I said, and I didn't, I said, "No," she goes, "It was on the paper she gave me, but I just overlooked it." And I lived in the bathtub. I lived in the bathtub when I was on going through chemo.
Yeah.
It just always felt good. But it
Yeah.
wasn't, it was just mild. It's like, I having some burning down there. What's going on, And I never got in the bath again until I was done. But yeah,
So
so for
you're
me, the side effects weren't horrific and
right.
it's not painful at all. It's just uncomfortable and invading. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But when that the story you related about everyone being crowded in there and saying, "It looks great." I mean, that is what you wanna hear.
it's true. Instead of, "Ooh, this is gonna be some bad scar tissue." They were like, "Yeah." And then I did follow up with, lower pelvic therapy. I did,
Okay.
7 or 8 sessions of that.
Okay, and what was that like?
Lower pelvic, very enlightening. Very. I had no idea. And the
Yeah.
gal, I had 2 different ones. So I was at, the other hospital. One hospital, then I went to another one. I had 2 different therapies. I did it, like, I think in 2018, then I did again in like 2021, just because I just wanted, I don't want to, because I'm still getting pelvic exam. They still look up in there once a year or so. And you don't want that to be painful. And if there's no elasticity, then, and I didn't want that. But
Yeah.
how what they teach you about, well, and some of it I knew, a lot of it I didn't. And just how they work inside to break down the scar tissues from the radiation. I suggested, and they said they mostly deal with people who just have really tightness down in their vagina.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, they're really nice, both of them. They're really nice ladies," and I learned a lot.
Yeah. I know, that's not you don't meet those people every day on the street. So
That's
it's
right.
part of the whole patient experience.
Yes.
So, speaking of patient experience, I think a lot of patients do have their treatment. It was certainly not a high point of their life, and then they're ready to move on. But you opted to get deeply involved in patient advocacy, and you remain deeply involved. So, you are now a program manager with is it Ecana? Am I pronouncing
Yes,
that
you
correctly?
did.
Okay. The Endometrial Cancer Action Network for African Americans. So
Absolutely.
how did you get involved in that in the first place?
My very last appointment with Dr. Dole, she said, and I knew she did research. She goes, "I'm fixing to start another project and I need a patient's voice. Would you be interested in being a patient partner with me?" What else could I say but yes? And I'm like, "Sure." Not really understanding the full magnitude of what that meant. And then in December of 2017, we started Ecana. We have our
Okay.
first meeting. Yeah. And today I think we're in our 7th year. Is that right? Oh, oof, oof. Yes. So in December, and I manage all our programs, which was our flagship program was our Survivor Sanctuary, where we meet right now 4 times a month to support Black women who are going through endometrial cancer at whatever stages they may be. And then we do educational initiatives. We sit at the research table. We're in the room with the doctors and the scientists to be that patient's voice and to share our stories to help them learn and do what they need to do as well. And then we do community, which is our survivor sanctuary. So we do all kinds of activities and we're all virtual. So I think we represent about 25 different states where people can show up, like, when we have our group, we'll have them put their name and then put where they're from, so we know where people are. We have quite a few
Yeah.
ladies on the East Coast. I always tell people I live in the East Coast time. Adrienne Moore, who's currently the president, and I am the project manager, she lives on the East Coast. So I always say I start my meetings at 5 a.m. I'm done by noon. It's like,
You
yeah,
do
that's
chair
when we
yoga, you do Bible
yeah,
studies for people who are
yes,
interested.
yes, we do.
You have exercise groups, you encourage women to move, even if it's just walking to the mailbox daily.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember you had said some of these women when they first come on and they first find out about it, they join the group online and some of them start crying
Yes.
because well, rather than me saying why I think that is, why do you think they start
Well,
crying?
for one, they, like me, had never heard of endometrial cancer, had no idea what was ahead of them. Some hadn't had any support at all. Like they didn't have any. It was hard to, of course, your family and friends love you, but it's sometimes really hard to talk to them to where they actually get what you're going through and what you're feeling. And for those that did show up, were like, oh my gosh, I'm finally in a space where I have people that look like me. I did when they were at the other cancer, like in some cancer centers, they have support groups, and some of our people had gone, but they're talking about all the cancers, and then they're talking. I mean, I'm looking around, and I'm the only Black woman in the group, and it's just that feeling of sisterhood. I think that's what we get a lot too, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I found you, ladies." And then what's wonderful, and which is my one of my main goals is to have the women connect outside of sanctuary. They're on the phone. If they're close to the same cities, they go see each other. Every time they meet up somewhere, I'm like, send me a picture. Like maybe one's going on vacation here and one day, oh, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be over there.
Yeah.
Okay, what was so and so? And they just
Yeah, they
meet
do
up,
that.
take pictures, and build relationships because I really strongly believe that community and relationship is a huge part of our healing process and not feeling alone and hearing someone say, me too. Everyone's nodding their head there while they're describing their experience. We're all like,
Yes.
yeah, of
Yes.
course, all of our journeys are a little different, but there's
Yeah.
so much the same.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's particularly important because the rate of diagnosis within the Black community is lower, but these women are dying at higher rates because they're being
absolutely.
diagnosed later. And you believe that's because they're actually not being listened to.
So we hear that story way too much. Said you're going to be okay. No, you're fine. Take a Tylenol. It can't be that painful. It's like, how are you to judge what kind of pain I'm in? And then the longevity. I've heard this. Oh, my doctor canceled the appointment again. Oh, I was supposed to go do this. Oh, it got canceled again. And literally, the head down syndrome when you're in the doctor's office, they're taking their notes or on their computer. They're not even looking or talking to you to see who they're talking to. And it just that dismissive look, it's hard, especially when you're going through something that you don't know what's going on. And inside, you're just feeling not heard and not listened to. And so we've helped navigate women through that as well. We have a lot of this on our website as well.
So I think a good way to wrap up would be to ask what kind of, having gone through this yourself, and what sort of, do you have advice for women and especially Black women who, you've noted are less likely to talk about cancer openly, publicly? So do you have any advice? What kind of advice do you have after going through this yourself?
Well, for one, when I was about 10 or 11, my mom had all of us really young too. I was the third. She's in her early 30s and she had a complete hysterectomy. I didn't know why. Today, I found out 2 years ago when I was talking to my sister. She goes, "Oh, it's because of the fibroids." No one talks about it. We're talking about it in our home. I have 5 grandchildren and my grandgirls, we talk about everything. I talked about it more than my mom did, but I didn't talk about it like I do now. And talk about vaginal health in your home. Like it's just a daily, everyone's comfortable. It's not hiding. It's not secret. By the time had been bleeding for so long off and on, I was tired talking about it. So I wasn't talking about it. Well, nobody else did either, right? So it's like, talk about it in your home so it makes it comfortable. That's one
Yeah,
of our
normalize
initiatives
it.
that normalize it. We have is our Project Impact, where we literally hand bags out with information on endometrial cancer and ways to contact Icana so women can say, oh, what is that? So like, oh, this could be a symptom of. Get the knowledge. Knowledge is power. And with that is how we save our community and keep the talk. And then, of course, I told you earlier, my story is my cancer hit in menopause. Don't let that happen to you. All my close girlfriends all have journals. Most of them are younger than me. You have a journal. When you go that 1 year and there's no blood, you know you're done. If you see any blood after that, go straight to the doctor. Don't ask any big questions. Don't ask any friends. Go to the doctor. That's one sign is bleeding after menopause, postmenopausal bleeding.
Margie, thank you. This has
You're welcome.
been amazing. No, you're gonna really just hearing this is gonna educate a lot of women. So just following in your path of advocacy. Thank you so much for
You are
joining us.
so welcome. Thanks for having me, Bonnie.